Hello, this is George Demery with another episode of Your Money Matters. And remember what we do with Money Matters. We help you to promote financial literacy. We want you to understand your money. We look for business opportunities and education opportunities and employment opportunities that can help you and your family more long term. We want you to think critically when you're making buying decisions, that a man is how he think of how you use your money and to give it thought before you spend your money. Next, we want you to be credit worthy, that our goal is to have a credit rating of 700 or more. If your credit rating is 700 or more, it puts you in a great position to buy money when you need to make major purchases. And finally, and just as important as all three, is to get out of what we call financial slavery, debt. And debt is a form of slavery. Well, today I have a special guest, and I'm so excited to have him. I have Edwin Fox. He is a financial professional. He's been handling folks' money for over 20 years. And let me tell you something about Edwin. Met him in college. Met him at do you remember that, Edwin?
That's right, EKU.
We met at EKU. And who would have thought that one day you would be handling folks' money, and then eventually I'd get into radio and eventually working at a church like St. Stephen Baptist Church. I'll tell you this, let me say this out loud, I've never had a boss like Pastor Kevin W. Cosby. What a great leader, what a brilliant person, and what a visionary. The first thing Edwin said as he walked in our studio, Edwin, and everybody does, it wasn't just you weren't the first person to do this, you said, I think the word you used was impressive.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, that you saw the set that we have and what we've done, and Angela Lucier, Sharon Bell, Alex Manningley, Crystal, Tyler when he was here, now Jeff, this whole team, Candace, this whole team of folks that have helped us put this together so we can give out information to help people. What we do is we talk about money. Edwin, tell them a little bit about money, some of the things you did and some of the people you helped and how you help people with their money.
Well, let me start off, George, for thanking you for inviting me to be on the St. Stephen's Network. I saw information about it, and then being here today, it was very breathtaking, very impressive. But, looking at money, when I became a financial professional, my goal was to try to understand how the stock market works. And that's how I got into this business. And actually, I bought my first stock in 1981, right out of college. And that's only because I took a financial class. My degree was in computer electronics, and the lab was closed, so a guy was telling me, well, I'm taking a class to learn how to read the little numbers in the stock market. But right now, looking where the opportunities to prepare for finance today compared to 20 years ago is wide open. When I first got into this business, the stock market was at about $11 trillion market cap. Well, today it's at $50 trillion. So when you look at the stock market, it's like looking at this big old piggy bank, and you got to figure out how to get money out of this piggy bank that started back in 1792. Looking at retirement planning, it's pretty important today because we are living longer. So we got to figure out this pathway how to prepare for that day when you turn 62 or 65, that you can continue to live a quality life. I tell everybody, the number one thing is that you get into, if they offer a 401k, a 457, or 403b, participate in it, enroll in it, and then find out what investments are in the portfolio, you know, and many of the retirement plans today, you can go on the website and they educate you about it. But if you're unsure about that, reach out to a financial professional or reach out to somebody else that has been in a retirement plan for a period of time. And you know, talking about retirement, a lot of people today think that retirement is, let's say, far-reaching from them. But you know, I'll tell you a story about this guy named Jeremiah Hamilton. Okay, now this guy lived back in 1835. Okay, he was the first African American Wall Street broker.
So let me stop you just for a moment.
Oh.
So you're telling me that during slavery,
Right.
all right,
Right. 1835.
1835,
Right.
there was a black man that was in the stock market.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and he sold insurance for the ships as they brought goods and services, you know, product from New York, insurance policies. He sold stock. He bought real estate, and you know, now he was born free. You know, his parents wasn't in slavery, so he was born free. Now he had a shady life in the early part of, you know, he was selling counterfeit coins to Haiti, okay, but then, you know, the fire came along, and the guy, the business guy he was doing business with, you know, lost his lives, so he woke up with $5,000. But the point is, he saw opportunity when it was very difficult for people of color to be successful. You know, he bought 47 lots right after the New York fire. He did transactions with insurance companies. He did transactions with the stock exchange company. And he was, you know, he was highly respected, but also disliked. But when it was all said and done, when he died, he was worth $2 million back then, okay? And he was considered the richest African American in New York, also considered the richest African American in the United States. And the other thing is, even back then, there was about 6 millionaires out there that became millionaires when slavery was still going on. But the point is, it's unlimited opportunity today. The number one thing is you got a budget. You can't spend more than you earn. You know, that's the first step. You got to get to a point where you have disposable income. Let's start with that. You know, and that comes out with just a basic budget and figure it out. And if you don't have enough income, then you got to have a second source of income. Let's start with that. Okay? Then you want to get to the point that your money at least compounds 7.5 cents. There's a rule out there called the rule of 72. Albert Einstein, I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Albert Einstein, I just quoted him in our staff meeting just yesterday.
Okay.
And he said, imagination is more powerful than knowledge, because imagination is infinite. It goes beyond anything that you get knowledge-wise. And I've shared with people many, many times, Edwin, that it all starts when you're dealing with your money is with a budget. So you said,
absolutely.
So you said budget.
Right.
Look for second sources of income. So
Right.
tell me about this law of 7.
72.
72. I need to know that myself.
Right. And one of the key things is, and I tell people all the time, when you are investing for retirement, whatever vehicle you're using, IRA, Roth, a 401k, whatever, you need to know your rate of return. Okay? Because if you take 72 and divide it by the rate of return that you're getting on your money, and let's just start with 1 to 2%. Let's say that you're getting 1% on your money.
Okay.
If you take 1 and divide it in 72, that equals what?
There you go.
72 years.
Wow.
And what that's telling, if you get 1% on your money, that means whatever it is if it's 5,000, 10,000, 1,000, it's going to take 72 years for it to compound. Well,
when you say compound, tell me what you mean by that.
well, compound on principal and interest.
So
You know,
do you mean compound? You mean double?
right, double, correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. So 1% takes 72 years. Well,
For your money to double.
well, yeah, and unfortunately, I don't think I have the time to wait around
No.
72 years.
No.
2%, 36 years.
The average black man in the state of Kentucky, life expectancy is about 75 years.
Right, right.
You know?
Right.
So I'm going into my 65th year, so I got to make sure these next 10 are good ones.
Right. Right. So the key thing, you need to really have a goal of trying to get your money to compound at 7.5%. What does that mean, George? It means that if you have an investment of X amount of dollars and you don't add anything to it, in 9.6 years, that X amount of dollars will double in value on average. So that's the number one thing I tell people is your goal should be to at least get 7.5% on your investment over a 10-year period of time.
So you're telling me that if I can get 7.5% of a return,
Right.
and I get that annually over 9 years, the amount of money that the principal that I start with will double.
Closer to 10.
Closer to 10.
Right, but less than 10. That's the average.
Okay.
And and that's one of the goals I tell people when you invest. You want to set a goal of trying to get 7.5%. So that means that whatever you have will compound, double in value close to 10 years.
Wow.
That's one of the most important parts. I guess the other thing I'll say is some investment firms did some research on African Americans back in 2014. One of the things that I thought was interesting is that only about 6% of African Americans own individual stocks.
That's
Okay.
Six?
Now this is from 2014. Okay. 2014. Now I'm sure I've been looking for updated data on.
but that's what, not eight years ago.
You're right.
Yep.
2014.
7.
Well, now think about this. We've all heard the 1%, the term the 1%ers. Okay? The wealthiest 1% of them. It's actually about 1,700,000 people fit into this 1%er.
Okay. 1.7 million people.
Right, fit in it. Somewhere around 1.7, 1.8 million. The average net worth of the 1%er is about $25 million. Okay? But these 1%ers, this 1,700,000 people, they control almost 40% of the wealth in America. But let's go a little deeper. They own 80% of the stocks in America.
They own 80% of the stock.
Publicly traded stocks in America.
Wow. So in only, as of 2014,
Right.
I think that bears repeating.
Right. This was a survey done.
Only 6%.
Right. I think they did 2,000 households, 2,000 African American households. Right.
Wow.
Right.
So let me ask you this: a person who doesn't know,
Right.
I've had a couple of people just recently say, "Well, George, how do I handle retirement? What should I do?" I got a young person in his 20s, late 20s, say, "I listened to you, Mr. George. So tell me what I can do to be in a good position when I'm 60 years old." So you got a 20-something, a 30-something, a 40-something, a 50-something, and a 60-something, and they come to you. What kind of advice would you give them?
I would say, number one, learn to save $50 a month and put it into a retirement plan. This could be a retirement plan through work. This could be a individual retirement account, especially young people. I encourage them to do a Roth starting out, tax-free money when you turn 59 and a half. Then I would say that looking at what you put it in, you look at a basket of a investments, which for another name is called a mutual fund. Then you go in and you find out what are the top holdings in that mutual fund, you know.
So when you say top holdings, define what that means.
Well, you know, and I can't talk about individual stock.
Okay, so
but
I want you to.
let's say you look at what kind of retail businesses are in there: drugstores, technology companies, Wi-Fi companies, industrial companies, auto companies, athletic wear companies. You know, you look at what are the top holdings of these companies, which, you know, basic technology, industrial, communications, consumer discretionary, consumer staple companies. And you can go in there and open that up. And you do this on the internet. You can go in and click on it, you know, find out what the symbol is, you know, and go in there, open it up, and it'll break down what the top holding. Then you think, well, are there any companies in there that I spend my money on? Okay, that I really like. Maybe it's a restaurant. Maybe it's technology that you own. Maybe it's the cell phone. Maybe it's a pharmaceutical company that you buy, you know, or maybe it's a medication that you even take. Okay, and then you think, have you been satisfied with these products? Or do you see your friends? Or I can also say, maybe there's a product in there that you dream of someday having, but right now, economically wise. So, and then you look around and say, well, are any of these companies, I'm spending money with them on an annual basis, or quarterly basis, or over the years, and that might be a good company. You know, I spend money. So one of the things, George, I tell people is that we need to get to a point where that we own companies where we spend our money.
So you mentioned mutual funds, and I want to take somewhat of a deeper dive in that. We only have a few minutes, you know, but I do want to take a little bit of a deeper dive. What makes them attractive is they have a group of companies that make up a mutual fund, correct?
A basket.
A basket of folks.
Correct.
And what people have taught me for years is that if you're going to invest to the best of your ability, to make sure you diversify your portfolio, okay?
Oh, absolutely.
I looked at my portfolio today. It's not that big really, I have maybe 15 different companies inside my personal portfolio, 15, 16 companies. I looked at it today, 6 of them did really well today. I mean, really well. 4 or 5 of them did okay. And then 2 or 3 of them didn't do so well at all. But when all the smoke cleared and you throw them all in a basket, today had been a good day.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So to the attractive thing about mutual funds is that you have a group of companies, and many times, help me with this, you can even pick mutual funds that target certain categories.
Oh yeah, those are sectors.
Sectors. Well, tell me about what do you mean what's a sector?
Well, let me step back and when you talked about the different mutual funds performing, okay, and some did great, some did okay, and then some. That's diversification, okay, and diversification will not ensure that you make money, but what it does, it spreads the risk. Typically, mutual funds typically average 200 different companies. Then there are some mutual funds have as many as 2,000 companies. Really? You know, they call them balanced funds. When you look at mutual funds, you got growth funds, then you got growth and income, which income is dividends, and dividends are only paid when the board of a company approves dividends to be paid. Okay, and let's say And that's the incentive for, okay, Mr. Shareholder, Mrs. Shareholder, we're going to share some of the profits for you to be a shareholder with us.
So not only do you make the money on the growth of the stock, if it happens
Appreciation.
to grow, that's the better word.
Right, appreciation. Value, appreciation. Correct,
You
right.
also they also pay what they call dividends.
That is correct. That is correct. And mutual funds have been around a long time. They actually go back to the 1930s when there was a depression, banks failed, corporations failed, but a mutual fund has never failed, and that's mainly because it's pretty much impossible for 200 different entities or 150 whatever to go under at one time. And now if that does happen, you gotta say either Jesus is coming or somebody dropped the bomb, then it won't matter.
Right,
okay?
right.
So.
But it would take something very catastrophic.
Yeah.
For something like that.
A meteorite hit the earth or something.
Okay.
So and there are, I don't know, there's probably 100,000 different. There's just unbelievable amounts of investments out there, security. So you really need to do your research on what's inside of it. I tell people, when you buy a car, you look under the hood. Now, you may not know what's under the hood, but you look to see if the motor's clean, or you look to see if any oil is dripping out.
Because I ain't got a clue, but I will.
Yeah.
And now they got all the engines covered anyway, so
Right.
you really can't say anything. So,
Right, but you got to look inside of it.
I ain't got a clue what I'm looking at.
Right. When you select them, you got to look, okay, what's inside of it? What is it? What are the companies involved in this? And do these companies resonate with you? Do you know anything about them? You look at the history of it. How has it performed over the last 10 years or 20 years? The management team, the portfolio manager, what experience do they have? I mean, do they have 10 years experience or 20 years experience? These are all the factors that go into it. Just don't look at it and say, oh, okay, it sounds like a good investment. And now today, with the cell phone or the computer, you can go to a site and find out, or if it's in a retirement plan, you can go to their website and just click on it. All you got to do is click on it. Well, it opens up. And it tells you about the professional management. It tells you about the rates of return. It tells you the top holdings in it.
Information.
Right.
Information is king. I tell people all the time, read, understand, be a critical thinker. We talked
Right.
about critical thinking
Right.
last week
Right.
on what to do. I know you can't name a stock, but I'm going to name one that seemed to be common sense for me, and using the same system that you just said. Well, Apple, okay? Every time I went to an Apple store, it was packed. It was one of the only retailers that you had to make an appointment to spend your money. And you had to wait to spend your money, and people standing outside to spend their money. I said, well, let me take a deeper dive into Apple. Well, Apple at that time, this has been 5-6 years ago, Apple had more cash reserves than the federal government. So I'm thinking, if you got that much cash, you got that many people buying, it just made sense that you wanted to buy that stock. And then on top of that, maybe 2 or so years ago, Warren Buffett dropped a ton of his money on it. He's not made very many bad investments with his money, right? So that's you thinking before you make an investment decision.
And you know what I'm going to say, Judge? I can't make no comments
Right.
about
Any I know.
investments at all. But what I will say is that observation is very important. The world's changing at a much faster pace than we've ever seen. From technology, the whole 9 yards, and this is a digital, technology-driven economy now. You look at this recession or the pandemic and the whole 9 yards. 50% of the people went home and worked with a laptop. My daughter did that. My son did that, and continued on working. So that's the thing we got to pay attention to as change comes along. We got to recognize that change does create opportunity. It does create investment opportunities. Looking back, and we talked about it a lot, but looking back to the basic of retirement planning.
Yes, let's talk about it. Let's get back to that.
And let's go back to that.
Right.
You got a budget, you got to save, and then you got to decide with what you're going to do with your money. I always say, how you're going to educate your money. Okay. You got to tell it to grow. You got to tell it to compound. You got to tell it where to compound, and you got to tell it how long to compound. And that's the choices that as African Americans today, because when I started in this industry, we were spending, I think, $300 billion. Okay, that was our spending power. Now we at $1.4 trillion. Okay, that's where we were, $350 billion, something like that. Now, so we are in a renaissance of opportunity now. But we got to understand where to place our money. We got to understand the power of saving, the power of how you place it, and you got to decide that by participating in this economy, not just being a consumer, but being an investor and owner, will empower you. And again, get into the retirement plans. Find out what investments in there, how they work. You can make a phone call. Is people will answer these questions, and then as you get older, learn to save more, and then go to the process of trying to pay your house off early, adding an extra $100 to the principal. That will, on a 30-year mortgage, that will reduce between 7 to 13 years, just putting another $100 on it. And then have a strategy also of paying off your car early, and then apply that to your retirement strategy. We in a pandemic, but pandemics create opportunity. Now, at some point, we will move from the pandemic will, let's say, reduce over time. Then what we will see is pent-up demand, because everybody's been sitting home, not going to the restaurants, and that means that when these restaurants open up, whatever the fountain drinks they sell, they're going to be selling a whole lot of them. Okay, and that's observation. Okay. What does that mean? That people haven't been on vacation, and when they start traveling, it means they're going to get on a plane. And that means they're going to stay in a hotel. Okay? That means that probably when you got some place to go, you're going to consume more clothing. And all of these things play a role in moving the stock market higher over time. But you got to be selective, and you got to be patient.
Yeah.
But you got to start.
Yeah.
You got to start, and you got to have the courage to say, I can do better.
If you're not willing to take some kind of risk, you will not get to every business person who is successful took some kind of risks and believed in themselves.
Right.
So when this pandemic started, I shared with the audience that there will be an end to this pandemic.
Oh,
one day.
absolutely.
How can you position yourself back April last year to be better? What can you do this month, next month, to be better at the end of this
Oh, yeah.
pandemic?
Well, and when you look, there's been two pandemics, one in 1918. It lasted about 2 years. Then we had one in 1956. Now, interesting that somebody did develop a vaccine, I think, within a year of the pandemic, similar to this. But both times after the pandemic, America saw pent-up demand.
So, well, Edwin, Mr. Fox, thank you. We could talk about this for another 2 hours. The thing about Edwin, and one of the reasons I love talking to him about money is because he has a passion for it.
Thank you.
So, and when you are dealing with a person that has passion, that's the kind of person that you want to deal with when you need someone to help you with your money. That's why I wanted to invite you to Money Matters. This is my long-term friend. I've known him since I was in my teens.
That's right, 30 years.
That's right. I've known his wife since they're in their teens. They've been together that long.
Right.
And you've done so many remarkable, great things with your money, and helping other people.
Thank you.
So, again, this is another episode of Your Money Matters. We will continue to talk about retirement and how to handle your money. We want you to know the things you do, the thing that if you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, or no matter what, save, and save as much as possible. Because at the end of the day, that's what will put you in a position to one day tell your employer that I don't want to work for you anymore. So, again, thank you. Thank you for being here. And as always, God loves you, and so do we.